warm welcome from my side. My name is Niklas Löding. I'm the Global Product Manager for the MasterConnect system. And I'm happy today to be able to guide you through the topic of emergency lighting and the integration into the MasterConnect system. And before going into the real topic, let me give you a little bit of an overview of what we are going to discuss today. First, I will take a few minutes to introduce the MasterConnect system, give some general ideas, some general stories about the MasterConnect system, also showing some, just a short collection out of 3 case studies that I have selected for today to give you a little bit, not just the theoretical background behind the MasterConnect system, but also show how it can be used and how it is used in real applications. After that introduction, we'll move into the key topics of today, which is being started with the introduction to the MasterConnect gateway, but then most importantly, of course, the MasterConnect emergency lighting test reporting feature, which of course I will spend most of the time on today. Lastly, we will quickly jump over the MasterConnect product portfolio and, like mentioned already earlier, then jump into the question segment. So feel free, just as a quick reminder already, feel free to already ask all the questions in the chat. We have plenty of time in the end to answer them, to hopefully clarify all open points for today. Without further ado, let me start into the topic and let me start with the introduction of MasterConnect. So what is the MasterConnect system that is now being integrated into emergency lighting? When talking about MasterConnect, we always try to focus on these 4 customer benefits. These are the benefits that our customers report back, that we get as feedback from projects that we have installed over the past. So going back to the end user benefits that I was already introducing, and the 4 you should now see on the screen are the ones that I want to highlight a little bit. This is the feedback that we are receiving from the markets, from actual products that we have done. And the first one is energy savings. When we started with MasterConnect quite some years ago, it was all about sensors. Our first product in the MasterConnect portfolio was a sensor, and it is still a sensor, of course, one of our biggest products. But it was all about making sure that we can save energy through automation. So automation based on motion and daylight can, of course, help massively to reduce the energy consumption, because why should you have light when nobody needs it and nobody is on site and nobody requires to have the light? So making sure that automation can fix that and reduce the energy waste, which in the beginning we were sensor based. So everything we were doing with MasterConnect in the beginning was all about sensors. We now change, of course, add new features, added new products. So we're not considering it anymore sensor based, but still we are pretty much sensor centric still in everything we do, because we do believe in the need for proper energy saving tools in the field. Another benefit that we keep dear to our hearts when designing new features is the simplicity. We want to make sure that the system is as simple to configure, to commission, and to use as it can be, because we do believe that wireless connectivity can play a big role in the transformation, in the renovation of new buildings, and in the world of lighting in general. But it needs to be simple. So that is a key part of our priorities when developing new features, which you will hopefully see by the end of this webinar also goes for the connected emergency proposition that we are introducing today. The third bullet is just as important as simplicity, which is reliability. Of course, we want to provide an option that gives you, or a system that provides you with the right peace of mind for you, for installers, owners of the building, luminaire manufacturers, lighting designers, so for all part of the chain, to have this reliability in mind and making sure that you can install the project and just leave in the end if there's not much work left. And that's something we try to guarantee with extensive system testing. Both automated and manual testing facilities are in place, making sure that our system, when it gets to you, is already tested and is mature enough to make its way into the market. And the last bullet for this first slide is the cost effectiveness. Simplicity is one key enabler to bring connectivity into the masses. Another one is, of course, being cost effectiveness. Now, I'm not saying cheap here, but of course, there is means to reduce the overall cost to make a nice return on invest for projects. And also, when showing the case studies in a bit, I will also reiterate that point in a small way. But let me zoom in on one of the aspects a little bit more deeper, which is the simplicity of the MasterConnect system. And I will not go from left to right this time. Let me start in the middle. Everything that is to be done with MasterConnect, so everything you do to commission, to configure the system, is done throughout a smartphone. It can be an Android and iOS-based smartphone, and that is being used without any special tools. Just the simple just the simple Bluetooth interface of your phone and an app that you can install is doing the trick here. So there's no need for special tooling, but also since all of us are quite fluent, I would say, with the use of smartphones, there is no need for extensive training. The user interface is designed in a way to keep it very simple, easy, not a lot of hidden features. So that's what is one big part of the simplicity, again, which I will show in the real emergency features. The first part I skipped for now was the plug and play option for all luminaire-based sensors. This is a feature we have added throughout the time, basically allowing energy savings from day one, and also getting rid of the need to configure this system on day one. So if you mount the luminaires, if you install the luminaires in the field, they will already perform basic motion and daylight sensor, ensuring energy savings from day one, but also already the comfort for the users. And lastly, simple design in of MasterConnect components. All the components have all the intelligence inside, so there is no specific need to make sure that it works well. All the intelligence is part of the MasterConnect components and therefore of the MasterConnect system, so it can work in a variety of different luminaire types. To zoom in on the second topic, which is sustainability. And I already mentioned that, of course, sensor-based, sensor-centric systems are good to save energy. So I brought today here two figures of the sustainability aspect of it. So like I mentioned in the beginning already, that sensors can help reduce energy waste. And of course, there's a lot of studies out there referencing of how much energy you can actually save. So you see here on the left, 38%, it's an average number that you can save comparing standard LED lighting with sensor-based LED lighting. So by just adding motion and daylight sensors, there can be around 38% of energy be saved. And on the right, you see 75% of energy. And this is the switch when coming from conventional to sensor-based LED lighting. And I think we all know that there is still quite a lot of conventional lighting in the installations up to today. So the intention, of course, there is a big potential to save energy. Which brings me to my next topic, the next part, which is cost effectiveness, and I will go really quick about it. The first point, of course, energy saving is good to reduce the CO2 emission, but of course it also reduces the operational cost of the installation. A second cost effectiveness advantage is that there is no need for control wires. Everything that MasterConnect does is wireless, so there's Zigbee and Bluetooth Low Energy in every luminaire, making sure that there is a proper connectivity and you don't have to add control wires, which is especially important in case of renovations. And lastly, simple and quick commissioning. By saving time during the setup and the entire configuration, of course, that also saves money in the end for the end user. Which sums up a little bit the introduction and shows where MasterConnect is heading to. And here you see a little bit the applications in which we are heading to. The first one being offices, schools, hospitals. That was part of our strategy from the beginning. And over the years, we have added products and features for retail application, parking, but also for industry application. So we are covering a wide angle of different applications with the system. To give you some examples of how it really was used, let me go into the section of the case studies now. And with the first one being an office building we just started, and one of our partners started this year, which is the Chibo headquarters in Hamburg, Germany. So Chibo is a retailer focused on coffee, but also selling all sorts of home goods. And over the beginning of this year, they have started the renovation of their headquarters, choosing MasterConnect as their lighting solution, ensuring for proper energy savings, which they have combined individual and group control combined. Oh, sorry, Bill. I was not not that fast. Thank you. So basically, they have combined the individual and group control into one. So for meeting rooms, for some small focus rooms, they use the group sharing, making sure that if you enter the room, all lights turn off. But then above the desk, they chose for individual control, which currently are around 1,000 MasterConnect light points being installed, with the remaining a few thousands to be done over the next course of years as part of an innovation part. Which brings me from one office to an industry example to just show you the variety of the next case study, which then is talking about the next slide, which is the Condite warehouse in Finland. So going from Germany to Finland, from office to industry, which basically here the intentions were pretty simple. The objective was how to save money, how to save operational cost. So here, by adding a motion sensor, and you see a picture on the left bottom here, by adding our SNH sensor to every luminaire, the customer was able, with replacing 300 luminaires, save, according to their own calculations, around 10,000 euros in the first year, just related to energy savings on the luminaire level on the lighting side, which shows, I think, a good, nice return on invest for renovation projects. And then last but certainly not least, we have one more case study for the Biska office. I had to learn that myself. Biska is a manufacturer for cookies, biscuits in Denmark. So they have also renovated their office and warehouse, with also the key goal to just move into a more flexible solution and also enable energy savings. So in the first year, they have been able to save roughly 67% of energy for both offices and warehouse combined. So again, another nice case showing the power of wireless connectivity. Which brings me from the introduction to more the content of today, with starting with the MasterConnect gateway. The gateway is the essential part of the everything that is advanced. So when we added the MasterConnect gateway to our portfolio, to our strategy, the aim was to unlock more features by bringing the system to a next level and adding more connectivity, while still remaining true to our core values, which one of them is being simple setup. We don't want to have, and we didn't, luckily we succeeded in that, we didn't bring additional complexity to the gateway when setting it up, or to the system when setting up. It is just as simple as adding another luminaire to your project by just a few clicks. And I have a short video in a few seconds, but let me first go over the other points. Another part is the reliability. When talk about reliability and talk about gateways, we often are confronted with the connotation or with the worry of end users that what if the gateway crashes? What if somebody removes the gateway from the site? And we designed the gateway in a way to ensure that all normal operations like automated motion and daylight-based control remain active and remain functioning with or without the gateway. So we have added it more as an accessory, as a tool on the sideline, rather than an essential part of the network, which still allows us all the beauty of a gateway linking the data to the cloud, but not getting rid of these essential standalone reliability we have over the past years, and that was always appreciated by our end customers. And the last bullet point here is the scalability. We know projects change, requirements change, requirements for a project change. So you might not know, or we don't know in the beginning of a project what the actual end goal is and how the product, the project will look like in 2-3 years from now. So instead of requiring a full recommissioning, a new setup when you want to add a gateway to it, the system was designed in a way that you can add the gateway at any later point into a project without having to do the entire recommissioning. And it also goes the other way around, to be very transparent. You can also remove a gateway later on without recommissioning everything. Of course, you would lose the additional features when removing the gateway, but it does not require the lighting setup to change at all. So that's a little bit of the introduction of the gateway in general. And on the next slide, I want to highlight some of the key items for the reliability, but also the scalability. And don't you worry, we will not go through every single piece of this slide because I know it is quite a lot. But I just want to use this slide to reiterate how we designed it. Our gateway is there to collect data, to provision data using Zigbee towards the group. So you see that on the right, it can add data or retrieve data from a network. It can commission, or it is commissioned and configured over Bluetooth from the smartphone, just like any other accessory or luminaire you have. And in the end, if the gateway retrieves data from the network, it will also be able to upload it into the cloud to make sure that they can be used further. But you see that also here from the architecture, not every luminaire needs to be connected to the gateway. Again, the gateway is just an accessory, a peripheral mode, as we call it internally, to retrieve the data, to collect the data. But if a luminaire detects motion, the gateway, to be very transparent, does not care, if I can say it like that. But it basically is not involved on the entire automation process, keeping it reliable and making sure that it is not depending on that gateway. Now, that was the introduction of the gateway. Let me show you how to add it, because I already mentioned that it is simple. But I brought a little bit of a screen recording with me today that we can see how it is being added. So basically, you go into a group, you click the plus at the bottom, you select gateways, and then just like for a sensor, or a wireless driver, it will look for compatible gateways in our surrounding. So you see here now it's scanning the environment and it detects one MC gateway. So the MasterConnect gateway is being connected. You can then either click straight on the plus button like I did in the screen recording. Alternatively, you can click on the name of the device and the status LED of the gateway will start identifying itself. So you can make sure that you have the right gateway connected to your liking. What will then happen? That's all the magic now that is part of the system. If we can go back, Belle, sorry, I was, let me reiterate the last point here. Basically, you see after clicking the plus, there is a big period where or big, it sounds more than it actually is, but there is a few seconds in the process where basically the entire network is set up. So our app will first connect the gateway to the group, then secondly, get them all the required information about the gateway. And then lastly, or in the same process, also ensure the full encryption and the security of all the members of that group. So these are all the steps, but all these steps will be done completely by the app. So there's nothing to do for a user apart from clicking the plus and adding the gateway. And basically that's it. That's all the steps it requires for the commissioning of a gateway. And while we are today here to talk about emergency lighting, I also want to talk quickly about energy reporting, because that's a first feature that we have also in there. Don't worry, there's only one next slide on the energy reporting, showing a little bit the options that you have, because we know, or I already reiterated a few times today, that energy savings is in the core of the MasterConnect proposition. So now with the gateway, when a gateway is added to a group, you can also have a automatic energy reporting. So basically, the gateway will read out the energy usage, energy consumption of a group, of a project, making sure that we keep the transparency here. Then this data will be used and will be formed into automated reports, making sure that the user, the facility manager, gets all the right information. But that's a topic I would urge you to then reach out to your contact to get more information on this, because I will now finally go into the main topic of today, which is the emergency lighting test reporting. And that is basically the next section that we are going into, where we can then look into the highlight introduction slide as well and see what we can do. And we have been always focused about lighting, about general lighting with MasterConnect, sensors, automation, also manual control. And with this one, we are really taking a next step into our entire connectivity journey and adding the capabilities of emergency lighting test reporting to our systems. Now, let me give you a little bit of the information here, how it's done, how it can be done, and what are the important points. Because again, one of our main parts is the simplicity. So also when introducing emergency lighting, which often come with added complexity, we wanted to ensure that it is just as simple. And without bragging about it, I think we achieved that because we didn't add too many new steps. It's just a few more clicks when adding emergency lighting to it. You can just simply add emergency fixtures to the same network like you would do a normal MasterConnect luminaire. And this will help you to maintain an easier compliance. Maybe that is a quick side note I want to mention. Of course, our system is just one tool of reaching compliance. It is always important to then, for each building, each project, really check what is needed to stay in compliance with local regulations. But of course, the tool, the emergency lighting test reporting feature, helps with maintaining the compliance, because it can take part of that required testing and reporting that is required by the regulation and automated for the user. So basically we can take and partly automate the entire process of emergency lighting test reporting. The next two ones, flexible solution, I will park that now and go on the next slide. But the last part is the cost-effective solution. There is no fees involved in that one. When talking about flexibility, these are the two emergency types of luminaires that I want to add. And do consider these drawings as very simplified drawings, but it shows the capabilities and the flexibility of the emergency features in the MasterConnect one. On the left part of this slide, you see a maintained emergency luminaire. So basically you have a luminaire-based control, a sensor integrated into the luminaire, but not just the general lighting, but you also have the emergency lighting as part of that same luminaire. So this can be enabled by combining any of our Easy Air SN sensors in combination with a Titanium SR driver or a D4i driver, a Trust Site Generation 3 Plus driver, and a battery. So by combining all these components into one luminaire, you are able to have a maintained emergency luminaire, which then can do two things, of course. It can operate in the normal automation or take part into the normal automation and the manual control features that you have heard of MasterConnect before. So you can dim it up, dim it down based on motion and occupancy, motion, occupancy, and daylight. It can turn off and turn on again. But on top of this, the MasterConnect system can then read out the emergency status of the emergency converter and of the battery in the same network. So these fixtures are then both general lighting and emergency fixtures. But we know that there's also dedicated emergency luminaires. So you see them here on the right slide, where the only thing we have is emergency. So you could, here in the illustration, we have chosen for an exit sign, but you could also sit for a pin spot luminaire, so dedicated emergency luminaires. And here we don't need the general lighting part. So we don't need the D4i SR driver, but instead here we can combine, or we also don't need the sensor in there, of course. That's the second part that we don't need in an exit sign, because these are tend to be not controlled, of course, by sensing. But instead, we simply connect the MC to DALI bridge, a new component for our MasterConnect system, and connect it to any DALI 202 emergency converter and ensure that we can perform the radio testing just as you would do for the maintained emergency luminaires. So these are the two kind of luminaires you can add. So you can read out then the system can read out the emergency status, but it can also change the schedule. So MasterConnect app, and we will see that in another screen recording on the next slide, can be used to modify the automatic schedules, which here you see a group with MasterConnect emergency fixtures. And then via the manual, you can have the scheduling done. You see here a few parameters you can do, the frequency, the start date, the start time. So you can also select, do you want to have the test starting in the middle of the night, just making sure that you don't annoy or disrupt people's work. You can change the frequency. Default is 4 weeks, but for certain applications and certain buildings, there is a need for different schedules. And now we just saw how to do it on the short test. The same thing, of course, goes also for the duration test that you see here now. Basically here, of course, the frequency is much different, where you can go 26 weeks, so every half a year, or at once a year. But the procedure is this. And make sure that you have the right connection and the right schedule. Before going to the next slide, let me also reiterate one point here. Of course, the MasterConnect system can be used to modify the schedules, but the schedules will continue to run and to be maintained on the emergency devices as part of their normal DALI 202 self-testing capabilities. So we can temper, we can change the schedules, but the system is not required to run those schedules, which of course also increases the reliability. So we have now added luminaires, we have added the gateway, we have changed the emergency lighting test schedules, but now you might wonder how to get the data. Where is the data from? So let us jump to the next part of the process, where we will show how to then enable the automatic test reporting. And also here, it's just a few steps. You go into the project settings, you go to automatic emergency reportings, and then you can enter email addresses. And that's it. Basically, by adding email addresses, and that can be one, can be two, you can add them to the process. Now, in this case, I'm adding 2 ones just as an example. You would then finalize this process by clicking on Add, and then finally confirm by saving. And if you want to send a test email, just click on the button Send Test Email, and a confirmation email will be sent to all recipients. What is important to know, these recipients don't have to use the app, so they don't have to download the app before. These can just be any facility managers, building owners, or whoever is responsible of maintaining compliance. So now you've seen with just a few steps, the entire process is set up. But now let's focus a little bit the remainder of the webinar to see what is the outcome of this. So on the next slide, we will show you how the reports then actually look like. So now we've entered the email addresses, we also tested, but then of course there will be reports being sent out to the users. So you see here on the right one example that we took here. So users will get an automated email with all the required information. Already in that email, you see some basic information that are required. So you see in the first paragraph, and I will read it to you because I know the font is rather small. It already indicates your installation requires attention. There are failing or missing test results. So already in the email, we indicate that we consider something wrong in the system, which enables you to do. But of course, there's more to it than just the email that is being sent to all the recipients. There's also then, of course, reports included in that. So on the next slide, we have the examples of the test reports of it. Here you also see the text of what I just said. But if we go to the next slide, we see the reports that are basically being done. And here you see the first report. So there's 2 overall reports, and let's focus first on the monthly reports that we see here. And the first one being the monthly PDF report. So on the first day of a month, you or the users, the recipients, will get the emergency lighting test report for an entire project. So for all luminaires that in that project that have emergency capabilities and are connected to the gateway and to the project. And here you see at the top some general information, the project name, location, when was the report created and what was the reporting period, and some basic high-level information on the test results. But in the table that you then see at the bottom of that screenshot, you see more detailed information. You see the group name, zone name, daylight area name in case that is applicable, device names, and then you see test date, test type, test result, error code, and error description. So in this report, all those information will be captured. And if we click again, then we will also see that we don't only have the PDF report, there's also a monthly CSV report, because the PDF report is intended to be readable so that you can on the first view immediately see what is going on, what is happening. But the second part, the monthly CSV report, is then also contains the historic emergency lighting test results. So basically also from previous periods, and that can be then imported into other databases if needed, or just be used to check on specific devices. So both reports are included in the monthly emergency mail, in the report mail that you get. But in case we detect something is wrong, there is a second type of results or second type of reports that is being sent, which is the intermediate emergency light test results email. Basically, the failing or missing results. And you see here on the right that the report looks overall quite similar, but it is a more condensed version. So we still include the general project information, but instead of showing all the results of all groups, we in these intermediate reports focus on the ones where we detected an issue. So you see here in the first line that this device on the 30th of August in function test detected, or there was a failed test result, which is the DALI code, which translates into a battery failure. But we don't only capture failures, but we also capture missing results. So in case we know that there was a schedule or the test scheduled for, let's say, today, if we don't get the results after a certain period, basically you will also get a report just like this saying, dear user, there's missing test results. Please have a look. Of course, missing test results can have several reasons for it. We know that certain DALI converters have the capabilities or the ability to delay tests. So of course, that is one thing that can do it. That's why it's not flagged immediately as a failure, but rather as a missing result with investigation needed. But all that will then accordingly be highlighted in that report. And that was the second report that we have, which lets me to, before going into the product portfolio, sum up the feature. So there's just a few clicks that you need. You add the gateway. Of course, you start with adding the lights. You add the gateway. You then define the schedule that you want, that you require. For a zone, for a group, you can define that individually. And then once you're happy with the schedules for all the groups, then on a project level, you select the recipients that should get that report, or that should get both reports, because of course this feature can be combined with emergency reporting as well. So if you like to also enable energy reports, that can be done in the same go. And once the user has activated or added recipients to the list and saved, then the automation will take place and the system will start reporting on the test results as intended to it. So that's the simplicity of the feature. I hope that gave you a little bit of an overview of it, but we also want to highlight the product portfolio that goes with it. To start off with the luminaire integration. So these are now the MasterConnect products that are available now, but also some that will be available soon. So on the left, we have our office sensor, our SNS 212. Then in the middle, you see our high base sensor, so going up to heights up to 16 meters, with also a high IP rating, making sure for warehouses, cold storages, or other production sites. And then on the right, you see a new product that will be coming soon, which is our EasyAir SNM 212, our mid-base sensor, then ranging up to heights for 12.2 meters, with a smaller footprint and a wider detection angle, also intended for the industry application to offer an alternative to the SNH sensor. When you don't need a sensor in every luminaire, we also have a portfolio that is then to be combined with external sensors or switches. So on the next slide, I have captured the important products from the wireless driver portfolio. So we have linear, track, mini, and tunable wide point driver available that can then be combined either with luminaires with luminaire integrated sensors or also with external sensors, which are then shown on the next one. You see here, I'm going rather quick about the product portfolio, but just to show you what is available. So these are the wireless drivers, and now going to the area sensors. One battery powered sensor on the left for the office application for heights up to 4 meters. Then we have the mains powered 4-meter sensor for offices here in the middle, and then an 8-meter mains powered version for industry parking applications going up to 8 meters. So these can be then combined with the wireless drivers or also with our wireless nodes. And you see here on the left, the Easy Air SNS 412 MasterConnect, a product that is already known and on the market for a longer time. But you see here on the right, a component that I briefly discussed is part of the emergency context already, which is the MC2 DALI bridge, will be launched very soon to then also complete the emergency proposition from a product side. And then there is the MasterConnect gateway. I already talked about it. Now you see a picture of it. So the MasterConnect gateway, which is available now, is then, of course, also an essential part of the emergency proposition. And then leads us to the last product slide, which are some accessories. Let's just skip over that and go to the Q&A part. Before starting with the first question, an apology again for the technical difficulties in the beginning, but now we have time for the questions for the remainder of the meeting. So asking Vlada to join me again, and then we can answer the questions.
Thank you, Niklas. Considering, I think it's safe to switch on your camera again so that we see you. And I am sorry I have interrupted the session before without introducing myself, but hello everybody. I'm Vlada, I'm the market manager here at Signify OEM, and I will facilitate the Q&A. And I do thank you for sticking with us and also sending in the questions. So we'll jump right to them, Niklas, because we have quite a few.
Great to hear.
I will, which one do we start with? So the reports, maybe on reports.
Yes.
When you receive the report, is it one report per room?
No. So if you have multiple rooms, multiple MasterConnect groups, you will receive, with the emergency capabilities, you will receive one report per project. So you don't have to navigate through many different reports, but it will be all combined into one email and one report per project level.
Right, thank you. And then one on how many emergency luminaires can we have?
Yes, so in total, our networks can consist out of 120 luminaires, and that can be 60 emergency, 60 normal luminaires, or 120 emergency and 120 normals. So basically, the maximum number of lights is 120 per group, and then the split in between regular and emergency can be defined individually by, according to the project needs.
Thank you. What happens if the gateway is suddenly disconnected?
Yes, I briefly touched based on that. So the thing that is the most important, the network will remain at work, let's say. So automation from motion sensors will remain working, but also the automatic testing, making sure that the emergency devices self-test themselves, will continue to work. The only thing that you are then missing is that there is no connection to the cloud anymore. So basically the reports are not being uploaded to the cloud, but the data will still be collected then on the devices. So normal operation will continue. The reports will then also, of course, after a certain period, indicate that there is no connection anymore or missing test results are done. But the operation will continue as is.
Sounds quite handy to me. And will the feature become available on all of the products, all of the MasterConnect products?
So we are in the process of upgrading all our sensors to the latest firmware, which is firmware 3.3, which is then the hosting firmware of that product. So all products will go into production soon with that emergency capability in mind. What is important to say if the luminaires are not connected to not connected to an emergency device, they of course appear as regular devices. Also with that update, so the sensor automatically, or the firmware, recognizes if it's an emergency luminaire or not. So no, don't worry if you want to use MasterConnect for a non-emergency installation. Nothing will change on that part as well.
Thank you. Now on the exit signs.
Yes.
How can we connect them into the system?
Yes, so I showed a quick, very simplified drawing, let's say, so maybe good to reiterate that. So the requirement that we have for MasterConnect and emergency lighting integration is to have a DALI 202 device. So if you have an exit sign, a DALI exit sign supporting DALI part 202, which basically is part of the emergency standardization, then you would simply connect an MC2 DALI bridge device via the DALI bus to the exit sign, and that's it. And then you can add the MC2 DALI bridge normally like you would to the MasterConnect network. So the MC2 DALI bridge is the tool to integrate emergency-only luminaires into a MasterConnect network.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Now, Niklas, do we have to recommission the entire group in case I want to add a gateway later on?
No, you don't have to. So basically, since the intelligence of the devices is all stored on the sensors or on the wireless drivers, you can add a gateway later on. So the video we showed a little bit earlier about the plus selecting gateway and then clicking the add button next to the gateway, that can be done at any stage of the project, can be done very much in the beginning during the installation, or let's say a year later, it can also be added to the network. No recommissioning needs to happen. All the logic will be done in the background by the gateway and the app themselves.
And again, on zones, can you select schedules on zone level?
Yes. So you can have one schedule on group level, so for all the devices in the group, or you can also add zones to a group and then have a separate or a different schedule for the different zones. So if you have different areas, you can then do that accordingly. So zones and group level scheduling is possible. In the video, fair remark, I only showed the group level, but it works exactly the same for the zones then.
Thank you. Something on documentation. So when will we have data sheets for emergency lighting?
They're in the process of uploaded. So if you would check out our online catalog, the Signify eCat, as we call them, there you already find, for example, the user manual on emergency lighting. When it comes to the MC2 DALI bridge, which is still in development, there we will still take a few weeks, but we have preliminary documentation available. So if you have any questions, want to see it earlier, just reach out to us. We can navigate you to existing documentation that is already online, or provide you preliminary information if you require.
Thank you. And maybe before we round up, because we are running out of time,
yes.
Do I need one gateway per group or one gateway per project?
It's one per group. It's one gateway per group, so up to 120 lights can be connected up to one gateway. And then in the groups, you can have different zones connected to that. And then in one project, you can have several groups within one gateway each, if that is requested.
Right. Now we do need to round up, and I still see questions incoming, which I want to thank you for, but we will get back to them, and we will get back to them, or reach out to your key account manager who will put you in contact with us so that all of your questions are answered. We will share this presentation after later on today or in the coming days, just to answer some of the questions that are coming. Yes, we will share it. It's coming your way. We do need to round up, so I do thank you for being with us today.
Also from my side, a big thank you for joining, listening, despite the technical difficulties every now and then. Really glad you stayed with us throughout the entire time. If you have any questions, you see a contact information here, but also you can always reach out to your local contacts. They all know the system already.
Indeed. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much.